All right, South Carolina is the hottest team in the country, and I don't know if it's even remotely close. Sunday instant reaction show to a huge win over Missouri. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into another happy, victorious Sunday. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I don't know how you wouldn't be. It was a happy day in church today. I'll tell you that much. I told my mom last night, she's a pastor over here in Lexington. She said, it's going to be a good day because Clemson won, which we hate, but South Carolina also won in dramatic fashion, 34-30 over Mizzou. Very happy day around the Palmetto State. Very excited. But listen, first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for listening each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers making South Carolina and Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Remember, we are a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, spectrum permitted. Anyway, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. You guys have heard me talk about FanDuel quite a lot this year, and I'm going to continue to do it because they are great. And you can start the season or continue the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers get, new customers, if you place a $5 bet and win the $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets. All you have to do is place a $5 bet, win that $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Let's get into it. Guys, how much fun is winning? Like, how much fun is winning? What a damn game. What a game. Just a phenomenal job from all parties involved. There are some things that probably need to be fixed a little bit, some things that frustrated me during the game. But all in all, what a tremendous win from South Carolina, snapping a 5-game losing streak to Missouri, winning the Mayor's Cup back. You saw how excited Beamer and his kid were. Running into the post-game press conference, putting it on the stand, all fired up as we all were. I mean, just what a game. What a game. Let's get into it. A 34-30 win. I'm pulling up the box score right now. Raise your hand if you thought the game was over when Luther Burden caught that one-handed touchdown catch. Like halfway. I will say I was very frustrated with that because I'm the idiot that was like, hey, guys, you're not going to lose because to Luther Burden. You need to focus in on Theo East. We come moments away from Luther Burden having the game-winning touchdown catch, which would have been a bad day. But there were so many positives to take away. First and foremost, Lenore Sellers. Let's just all go down to Pike Nursery. I don't know if they have that in South Carolina. They do in Georgia. Wherever you want to get your flowers, give them to Lenore Sellers. This kid has gotten so damn good each and every week over the past 5 weeks. Pulls off a 398 total yards, 5 touchdown performance against Missouri, who was a top 10 defense nationally. Like, think about what I'm saying. We're in the first part of the season versus where we are now. And if we ever would have said that about Lenore Sellers and just the way that we were worried about like his development and all that kind of stuff, my goodness. And here's one of the coolest parts about this team. Of course, it starts with Lenore Sellers. Of course, it starts with the defense. You got your heavy hitters like Josh Simon who are making plays everywhere. Their go-tos. Rocket Sanders gets the game-winning touchdown, right? Rocket Sanders gets the game-winning touchdown. But, you know, like Nick Harbor makes multiple appearances with some huge plays. Let's not forget the return to set up the final drive, which was huge. How about Delvon Campbell? Where did that come from? 2 catches, 86 yards. I mean, the plays, I have goosebumps right now just rehashing what happened yesterday. And I'm telling you right now, it's you could see it started to like bubble up and the groundswell of momentum that has come up from a national level of this team is the hottest team in the country right now. They've only won 4 games in a row. So we didn't I get tempering expectations and one thing that sucks, and we'll get into it at some point, it doesn't really have to be a huge thing. I don't think everyone was necessarily expecting it, but South Carolina Their projected odds to get into the college football playoff dropped down to 12%. Nothing that they did. It was only at 14%, but nothing they did. It's everything else that's surrounding them. The other teams that have won and took a step forward, crazy times living in. Indiana has a 97% chance of making it despite the 106 ranked schedule. But we're not going to let any of that dampen our Sunday because, again, another victorious Saturday in Williams-Brice. And my God, I mean, just you start the game. I didn't love some of the fourth down calls, and we'll get to that here at some point. I thought this game could have been put away early. I really did. And I tell you what, we'll look at some of the numbers here because I know I wrote a bunch of them down yesterday. There were things that this South Carolina team did, and we've been saying this for weeks, where it feels like they are turning a corner in front of our eyes, and they have been. I mean, Lenore Sellers over the past 5 games is 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. What? He did get a little bit careless with the football, fumbled, but was able to recover it. I think it was early in the first half. But let's go over some of these numbers and notes and stuff like that, just to tell you how impressive of a win this was. One of the things I thought was most impressive, right before halftime, you run a 2-minute drill, you score with I think it was 54 seconds left or something like that, going into the half. Let me pull this up. You score 39 seconds left on a touchdown pass to Jared Brown on a screen pass. He goes 38 yards, touchdown. You go up 21-6 at the half. Obviously, that touchdown came out to be a huge, huge deal in the end of this game, right? Here's the thing. This is if you've heard this before, I'm sure. Especially if you're like kind of big into analytics of football and all that kind of stuff. The Patriots used to preach this. The last 2 minutes of the first quarter are super important, trying to get a score or preventing a score. But the sandwich 8 minutes in the middle of a game, the last 4 minutes of the first half, the first 4 minutes of the second half, a lot of games are won and lost there in that moment. In the last 5 games, so this is a touchdown with 39 seconds left. This is the 4th time in the last 5 games that South Carolina has scored a touchdown in the final 2 minutes of the first half. 4 of the last 5. It's the 3rd time. I'm sorry. It's the 4th time in the last 5 games they've scored in the last 2 minutes of the first half. It's the 3rd time they've scored a touchdown in the last 5 games in the final 2 minutes of the half. Did it against Bama, did it against Oklahoma, did it on Saturday against Mizzou. I mean, huge. Just a huge, huge deal. They got a field goal against A&M right before the half to tie it up, to make it 2020. Just a really, really good job. The play calling from Dowell Loggins, I continue to owe this man an apology, and I don't know when it's going to have to stop with me owing him an apology, because what he did yesterday on a defense that had allowed less than 300 yards per game, you put up 462 yards of offense, you put up 353 yards passing. To put that in perspective, that's the 2nd most passing yards allowed by a Missouri team in the last 5 years. Lenore Sellers and company did it on Saturday. Missouri hadn't allowed, they've allowed more than that, more than 353 yards passing one time in the last 5 years. An incredible job. Let's talk about the fact that Lenore Sellers had 5 touchdown passes against Missouri. They had allowed 7 total touchdown passes all season. Sellers gets 5 in one game. 5 in one game, none bigger than the final shovel pass to Rocket Sanders. That's the most they've allowed by any one quarterback in at least the last 9 years. Lenore Sellers did on Saturday. We talk about this stat all the time, but this just goes back to the fundamentals of what Shane Beamer is trying to build and a foundational building blocks of this program. How about the fact that they're now 23-6 under Shane Beamer? That's a 79.3 winning percentage or 793 winning percentage. When they win or finish even in the turnover battle. They did it again on Saturday. They are just 3-15 when they lose it. They came very close to getting that 4th win if it wasn't for the final interception, but I'm glad we got the final interception. It's what sealed the deal. Just a phenomenal job. And last but not least, before we get into some more gushing, just compliments for this team that we'll get into in the next segment. How about 4 penalties for 40 yards? 4 penalties for 40 yards. Tied for the 2nd fewest penalties in any game for South Carolina in the last 3 years. You had to step up in the biggest moments in this game to go pull away with a victory, and you did it. You played your best football when it mattered most. Sure, you made some mistakes. The defense wasn't as good as we've seen in the past, but you played your best football when it mattered most, when you needed it most. And my God, when your back was against the wall, did this entire team deliver? I'm just still blown away. When we come back, we will get into more of the ins and outs in the game, the numbers to know, and just the overall incredible performance and win you saw Saturday night in Williams-Brice. We'll talk a little bit about what's next and what's on the horizon, but also we will continue to live in the moment and talk about that game last night, because it is a classic that I think will be remembered in Columbia and around this program for a long, long time. Locked On Gamecocks continues next. All right, welcome back. Before we get into our next segment, I do want to give a shout out to our good friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Listen, our friends at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing, it says second overtime in the ad read, but let's say a last-minute touchdown drive to go 6 plays, 70 yards to get a victory over a ranked Missouri team. But that is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot, with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans, just like us, the fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We see you. You know what else gave me a bit of South Carolina fan fuel this week? How about this? How about the fact that when you go into this game, right in the start of the final drive, Lenore Sellers pulling a Houdini, rolling out to his left, getting away from the tackler, coming back to his right, and completing like another 40-yard gain. Just a massive, massive deal. I don't think anyone was happier than Dowell Loggins and Shane Beamer in that moment, especially after some of the play calls we saw on fourth down leading up to it. But my God, what a play from Lenore Sellers. Just an incredible, incredible Saturday night in Williams-Brice. But listen, 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepared for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. And that's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy, available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. Let's get back into the game. All right, so I told you some of the incredible stats of what happened. Some of the main takeaways. Now listen, I was bothered by what got us in this situation, because it did feel like there was a lot of stuff that could have been avoided with the fourth down play calling, just flat out. It could have been avoided with the fourth down play calling. I think some of those things are the things that we've been kind of talking about over the last several weeks, where it's like, listen, Beamer and this program are growing up, right? They're growing up in front of our eyes. You could sit here and say, well, like you almost cost the game. It's also, let's just give a credit to Mizzou. Like the 4th and 5 play from what do you call it? From Brady Cook to Luther Burden. I mean, one hand catch. Like I don't know what else. I think it was Kilgore that was on him. I'm trying to think. I forgot exactly who was guarding him. It wasn't Fortune, but like, I don't know what else you really could have done there. It's just a future top 10 draft pick making a exceptional play in a game, in a moment that mattered most. And that happens sometimes. I don't think a lot of us were too worried about it, considering what happened afterwards. But yeah, there were some things that bothered me. There were some things in the offense, or the defense. I'm sorry. Like the offense looked good. Again, I thought this was going to be a struggle bus game offensively because of, listen, you've won 3 games in a row. You're coming off a big win at Vandy. You're like, which sounds weird, but it's like, think about the emotional wins you've had over the last several weeks, right? You go to Oklahoma and you win. You get the A&M win. You get the win against Vandy. Like I said, like there was a lot going on. I think that it's hard to continue to get up for these games. And then you get a Mizzou team that comes to town that's owned you for the last 5 years. And also, maybe this is me just outing myself for being bad at my job. I don't know. Where did Brady Cook come from? I was very convinced that he was not playing this game. One of the reasons I thought it was going to be a struggle bus offensively and just kind of like a slobber knocker type game back and forth. It was like a Big Ten game. But Brady Cook starts. one thing that's going to be lost in this game because of what happened, and this is not taking anything away from South Carolina. What an incredible game by Brady Cook. 21 of 31, 237 yards. One touchdown, one interception. The interception was at the very end of the game. That kid's he's a gamer, man. He's a gamer, and it was very impressive. I was impressed with their O-line. Their O-line played really, really well against the South Carolina defensive line. That, listen, I'll tell you what they did more than anything was, and this is what suits the Brady Cook, like his strengths as a passer. I told you this going into the game. They don't throw the deep ball well or accurately at all, but they do have the intermediate passing game that goes very, very well and is very, very complimentary. Pepper's pissed. Very, very complimentary to what his strengths are as a passer. Doesn't have a rocket arm. Isn't going to like light you up with, doesn't have like a Nico type arm. Doesn't have like a Patrick Mahomes type arm, for lack of a better example. But like he will dink and dunk you to death by 1,000 paper cuts type situation between 5 and 10 yards, just nonstop. And they were able to do that. And that's effectively what took away South Carolina's pass rush, because he wasn't dropping back and needing a lot of time for plays to develop and for anything like that. It was a smart way to attack this defensive line and to attack the South Carolina defense. They for a lot of times throughout the game, especially at the start of the second half, it felt like they were just like a half second ahead of what the defense from South Carolina was doing. And it was a frustrating feeling because we haven't seen that from South Carolina all year. I mean, the Ole Miss game, sure, that's a juggernaut of an offense. But we just hadn't seen that from the South Carolina defense. And they struggled at times, which is like, yeah, man, you're not going to have like an A+ game every single game of the week or every single game of the year. Like, this is, I think one of the things that makes me so pumped about this win was I do think Shane Beamer failed at times in this team to do basic things like set them up for success. Like you do have a great defense. Punt them deep. You don't need to turn the ball over in your own territory at all, right? Like, I do think the defense was at its worst, I think, that it's had all season, like including the LSU game, because of how great they were in that LSU game. Like, they gave up 127, it was like 150 yards rushing to Nate Noel, who was also back from injury. They gave up a decent amount of yardage. I think they only ended up they gave up 381 yards, which is about 100 more than they average. Defense only got 2 sacks. But again, all of the things that you need to be as a team were in place and were on full display at South Carolina against Missouri for South Carolina. Lenore Sellers playing guys, you can make the case there's not anybody playing better quarterback in the SEC right now. Maybe Jackson Dart. Milroe has been really good in November. Outside of that, who's playing better football than Lenore Sellers? I'll do you one better. Tell me a quarterback that you would rather have leading a team right now, this South Carolina team, than Lenore Sellers, and I'll wait. To lead this team, I would take him over Milroe. I would take him over Pavia. I would take him over Beck any day of the week. I mean, like, Georgia's lucky they don't have to play South Carolina this year. That's all I'm going to say about that. But, like, South Carolina, like, you needed a full team win. And I know that I'm pronouncing this name wrong. I know I am. But again, Delvon Campbell coming in with 2 catches for 84 yards. Like, how big of a – like, the run game was stifled from a Missouri defense that's been really good. But, like, I mean, Pepper – oh, boy. Pepper's awake. Pause. All right, dogs are done barking. Back to Delvon Campbell. You're talking about a kid that had 4 catches for 46 yards on the season through 8 games. He goes 2 for 86. Josh Simon continues to be the best tight end in the SEC. Flat out. What a weapon. 4 catches, 76 yards, 1 touchdown. Nick Harbor getting involved. Nick Harbor getting flagged for a phantom offensive pass interference and holding penalty, which was BS for one, but going 2 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown. Again, the return that he had at the very end of the game when, like, they were what do you call it? When they were trying to, like, mount their last drive. I mean, it was a really, really good job from the team all around. The offensive line gave up 1 sack. Like, how good has this offensive line been? I think they've given up 1 sack in the last 4 games. They were one of the worst in the country going into the Oklahoma game. I think they gave up 6 out there. 1 sack in the last 4 games. I mean, that is unbelievable. And then you talk about like again, there were flaws in this game. The fact that you have arguably the best punter in the country in Kai Kroger, and he has 1 punt for 41 yards. And I'm looking this up right now, and you went for it 5 times on 4th down. You were 2 of 5 on 4th down. I don't love it. I don't love it. Thought there were some questionable calls from the ref. I thought that was pretty obvious. But again, you overcame all of that. You overcame all of that. And in a time when you needed it most, I'm telling you right now, the moment this entire thing changed for South Carolina was with 1 minute and 44 seconds to go in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. That is the moment this entire thing changed for this team. You were down 14-0, and on 4th and 9, you hit that slot fade to, I think it was Simon or whoever it was, or maybe it was Maisie. I don't remember. But you hit a touchdown pass to score, to go down 14-7, and then everything, you know what all happens at the end of the first half, or it ends up being like you're 1 minute and 40 away from being down 14-0. You end up being down 14-12 at halftime. And from there, you came out on the next drive, of the opening drive of the second half, and went 16 plays, 13 of them rushing. You moved the ball at will. Everything for this team has changed since then. That game could have ended so many different ways, and they continued to fight, and they continued to fight. And I think if they were playing today, I don't think I cover Bama football for Cover Crimson and Next Round Live. I don't think there's anybody logically that's talking about Alabama, which is saying something because the fan base is not like that. But logically, talking about Alabama, there's no one that's looking at this and saying, like, yeah, I think Bama would beat them today at all. Nobody in the country wants to play this team. Nobody in the country wants to play this team. It's the best, and not the best. It's the hottest team in the country right now. And I don't know if they're going to get a chance to continue to play or play in the playoff. They are one of the best 12 teams. They are. And the results have to matter on the field, and losing 3 games is tough and all that kind of stuff. They're going to get to 8 wins. That's basically double what everyone thought you were going to get to at the start of the year. Remember? I mean, the projections were at 4. Hell, even I thought I was being too optimistic, and I said 7. I mean, this team has been so damn fun to watch. And yesterday, you get the ball at the 30-yard line with 1 minute and 2 seconds to go. I mean, that place, Williams-Brice, it felt like it felt loud as hell all game. And then something happened when the air just got let out of that stadium at the very end. Just got let out of the stadium because of that touchdown to Luther Burden. And they had a chance to roll over and die. And a lot of teams would. Just to be perfectly honest, a lot of teams would. Not this team. Not South Carolina. And I was so impressed with all of it. We'll get into that final drive. We'll relive it as we close out the show. I want to hear from you guys. What were your favorite parts? What were the things that mattered most to you in this game? We'll get to that when Locked On Gamecocks continues. Again, on an instant overreaction Sunday. This team is 7-3 and playing the best football maybe of anyone in the country right now. Locked On Gamecocks continues next. All right, welcome back into Locked On Gamecocks, the Sunday Instant Overreaction edition. Before we get into the final segment, I do want to give a quick shout out to our friends at FanDuel one more time. And listen, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and you could get $150 in bonus bets if you win. All you got to do is place a $5 bet. If you win that $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets in the NFL all in one place. So you get a hunch in the middle of a game. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I'll give you a perfect example of how big of a deal this is and how helpful it is. Last night, Oregon is down. They're down 10-6 at the half. I had a strong feeling that Oregon was going to come back and be able to beat Wisconsin. You can go to FanDuel. You place a live bet right there with all the up-to-date play-by-play, up-to-date stats, all those things, and placed a pretty large bet on Oregon to win outright, not cover 3.5, but win outright. And thank goodness, because they ended up winning by 3. And FanDuel was able to put that back in my account right away. Great experience. Can't say enough about FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. All right, let's also talk about our friends at the Game Time app. Listen, this is a great time to be involved in the Game Time app. You guys have heard me sing their praises before. I'm going to continue to sing their praises again, because now we have, not only do we have South Carolina football still coming around, we still have South Carolina basketball, men's and women's. I think the women are playing right now. The men come back from Bloomington, Indiana after a loss yesterday. I think it was 76-61. But it's a long season. We have a ton of time. Maybe it's a bowl game. Maybe it's something bigger than a bowl game. Who knows? There's still time left. But get to the Game Time app right away and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. Now, there's a lot to love with the with the Game Time app. I've told you about this before. They have tons of things like priority Game Time picks. So it's a curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. They have all-in pricing. You just toggle over the feature for all-in pricing, and it shows you the total price up front. No surprise fees, no hidden fees, nothing like that at checkout. You just show up, see exactly how much you're going to pay, and you pay that exact price. Last but not least, they also have a seat view from before you even walk into the stadium. You can see exactly what the view from your seats will look like from outside of the stadium. It's a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time, y'all. All right, let's get into the final drive and just talk about the game one last time in general. Just an instant classic, 31 points combined in the fourth quarter. You go into the fourth quarter, it's 21-12. So many opportunities to put this game away from South Carolina, and they just didn't do it. I talked about the frustration you have with Shane Beamer going 2 for 5 on fourth down. I do feel like you could have punted, played field position, given your defense, which, listen, played its worst game that it's played in a minute, right? We pull up the stats real quick on that and to verify, but it feels like it did play its worst game that they've played in a minute. They have 381 yards. That's the most you've given up to any team since the Mississippi game or the Ole Miss game. You gave a bunch up to against A&M, but that's also a team that you were up by a ton on, right? So it's like, how much of that was worth a crap. Outside of that, you haven't allowed more than 350 yards in a game since Ole Miss on October 5th. You give 313 to Bama and really shut them down. You gave up 291 to Oklahoma. You gave 291 yards to Oklahoma. They ran 83 plays, but this was just one of those games where they only ran 68 plays. They gained 381. They had 5.6 yards per play. One of the worst outputs for this defense of the season, but someone stepped up when needed it to. And in times in the past, you've seen this happen. South Carolina has not had that. And Lenora Sellers, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just pulling up from here. It's a 10-yard completion to Jared Brown. It's a 10-yard completion to Jared Brown. I mean, just ran all over the field to complete it. I can't get over what he was able to do on the field yesterday, getting out of bad situations, getting into the right reads, getting into the right setups on offense. I said this earlier as a joke. I don't think anyone is happier that he made that play on the final drive than Shane Beamer and Dowell Loggins, because they would have had to answer a lot of questions for how they coach this game. But we're not here to find a bunch of the negatives. We can get into that some other time. When you needed it most, you got it. And you got it from multiple people on this team. And here's the thing. You saw this defense struggle with this offensive line almost the entire game. What happened at the final? And part of that's because of the way they were game planning. It was like you weren't bringing a ton of pressure throughout the game. They were only doing like those dropbacks from the time the ball snapped to the time it left his right hand from Brady Cook. It was like 2.5, 3 seconds tops. Like Missouri did really, really a really good job of game planning against you. And sometimes it happens. So I think the positive takeaways you have from this are a ton. There's still things to work on. And that's kind of a beautiful win. You heard this all the time from guys like Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, like a perfect win. You won the game, most importantly. But you won the game and then had, you have things to improve on. So you can look at everyone in the locker room and after you're done celebrating, after the Gatorade bath and all that kind of stuff is dried up, you can look at them and say, hey, listen, we got to go to work on Monday. We got to go, our team meetings on Sunday, we got to start watching some film. We got to go to work. This thing's not over. But second and 4 from the Missouri 15, a 15-yard shovel pass. That's why you go out and get a guy like Rocket Sanders. That's why you go out and get a guy like Rocket Sanders. That's why when you have a limited amount of money in your NIL and your collective, that's why you go out and get a guy like that who can be a huge stalwart in this offense and like somebody you can lean on, because the moment he got past that, broke that first tackle, there wasn't anybody on the field that was going to tackle him at all. He was not going to be stopped until he got across the goal line, and he did. That's a game where I just kept thinking, like, just get in the field goal range, give yourself a chance. You went out and you took that victory from Missouri, and it was awesome. And when you want to talk about answers, when everything felt like it had fallen apart, and Missouri goes up 22 to 21, I believe, 22 to 21, and they do that with, let me see here, with 9 minutes left. I had a friend text me, he's like, it's over. And it felt that way because like so much momentum had been lost, and you had so many opportunities to seize the momentum or continue it, or at least put yourself in a better situation than you were currently in, and you didn't do it. But you go out and you have an 8 plays, 75 yards. How many times has this team answered in the last 5 games? 6 games, including Bama. Or 5 games, I think. How many times has this team answered? You want to talk about getting up off the mat. Getting up off the mat after that Ole Miss game. An incredible job from South Carolina, an incredible job from the coaching staff, an incredible job from the players. And listen, one of the things we're going to get to is a little sneak peek in the next episode. If you want to talk about some big picture stuff that should make you real excited, the production you saw from Saturday especially, almost all of it are underclassmen. Anyway, I appreciate you guys joining along. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Sunday. Love you guys. Huge win. South Carolina goes to 7-3. The new rankings just came out. They go up to number 19. Shocked that they're not higher than that. I expect them to take a big jump in the college football playoff rankings, because I think they would have to take notice at this point. But you're number 19 ranked South Carolina Gamecocks. It's a phenomenal time to be a Gamecock fan. Love you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. See y'all then.